We are live. JT here. Welcome to the huddle. If you're joining us for the first time, the huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. And why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. Welcome, everyone. I am really enthused for our conversation today. I've had the pleasure of chatting over social media with my guest today, and has really, gotten to know him a little bit, really got a great sense of what he's about. And I'm really enthused to share his journey with you. My guest in the huddle today is the head coach of the St. Andrews College Saints football program, Marcello Lio. How are you today, Coach?
I'm doing well, JT. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what I really wanted to do, Coach, was take a moment. One of the pillars that I live by, or do my best to live by, is to always live with a sense of love. And what I mean by that is really taking those moments to acknowledge and give a sense of gratitude. And I really want to take a moment just to send some appreciation and gratitude to you. One of the things that I've really enjoyed as we've gotten to know each other a little bit is just this passion that you have for life, this passion to truly just help others and really be a servant leader. So thank you for, being a great human being, and thank you for reminding me what the game of life is really about. So thank you, Coach.
Oh, thank you, JT. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no worries. Mm-hmm. So in the huddle, Coach, we definitely like to keep things light to start off. I mean, life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. So I'm curious, what is one fact, maybe one interesting quirk that you have that you would feel comfortable sharing that maybe a lot of people don't know about you?
You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. That's going to be a fun one for me to think of. Okay. As much as I, trying to lead by example and making sure that the young men that I've had the opportunity to work with are looking up to me and my staff and the people I surround with open arms and love, knowing that how much we love them and how much we want them to excel in everything that they do. I guess the one thing that I do onto the side is I'll just slip in a joke or two here and there, and I'll say some things that will kind of make people say, "Well, geez, that's a dad joke, isn't that?" And my kids say to me all the time, and simple things like your word of the day, it's like European. When you go to the washroom, European. I'll just throw this stuff out, and kids will be like, "Okay." So that quirky side of me is like to come up with these one-word phrases that kids make you think and say, what does that mean again? So, words that might mean something when they're not in the right context, that kind of stuff. So that's something I definitely like to lighten things up when I'm around trying to be serious.
I love that. Again, it goes back to that idea, right? Life is a game and games are supposed to be fun.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, as I've gotten to know you, I've really had an opportunity to learn more about your journey to greatness. And you've had a very diverse path, right? You were a very successful CIS quarterback at York. Then you spent some time coaching there. You've also played in Europe and you've won a championship over in Europe. Mm-hmm. And then you focused your time really on really diving deep into the high school athletics. So I'm curious, what role has sport played for you in your life? And what has been the biggest life lesson you've really taken away as a player or as a coach?
Right. And that's a great question. I think during my journey, obviously the love of the game is what brought me to the game first, right? Watching it on television. My dad was an avid football watcher, never played the game. He was more of a soccer guy growing up, but I'm originally from Chicago, and so those roots there take me to watching the Bears a lot and that kind of stuff. I grew up a Cowboy fan, but so and don't knock me for that, but so I love the game itself, but it was everything about the game that really brought me to it. That whole camaraderie, the fact that you've got to depend on the guy beside you. I fell in love with it from the moment I started watching it. And then, be playing that position of quarterback, obviously there's so many more challenges, but I felt like I could do it. I started to excel at it, and I had some great mentors along the way. As you probably know, back in the day, you could probably count on one hand where there might be a quarterback coach in the province, let alone in the country. Most CIS programs at the time didn't even have quarterback coaches, right? So, when I was playing, I looked at my mentors through my high school years, and even at York University. And those are both head coaches that I had, and both of them completely different, but the passion that they had for the kids, aside from the game, is what grew on me. And so that's what led me to my journey and wanting to give back. I always preach that to all of my players. I even preach to them now. If you can get involved in coaching and giving back, not only is it important for you to give back, but it's going to make you a 10 times better player when you step on the field with the ball. And that's massive. I wish I could go back and play right now, but that's another story. But, with 20 plus years of coaching now under my belt at so many different levels, I've learned it's all about the passion that you're going to exude upon your kids, so that they can feel that you're in 1000% for them, right? Not so much about winning football games, and yes, we all love winning football games. Any head coach would lie to you if they didn't. But I think the more important thing is for them to feel that passion, that you're there for them much more than just about winning of the game or the championship, but about life and about everything after that. So I think that's what resonated, because it was given to me, right? So I just wanted to pay it forward, right? Mike Rossetti was my high school coach, U of T alum, played at U of T. He's an amazing man. We're still very close friends right now. And when you have those types of leaders and mentors, I think the aspirations of you wanting to do the same are just inevitably going to happen. And you take from people a little bit of traits that you feel that you can, that you can do, and that you can give, and you want to give back. So for me, and even my time overseas, I've learned from a lot of coaches. I've learned things from coaches that I shouldn't be doing, right? So not only should be doing, or that you love about, that maybe you didn't like, right? And so that maybe that didn't work. So I think that the journey has done amazing things for me, and in my pursuit of excellence as a coach, as a mentor for young men. So I think that kind of sums it up as a whole there.
I really love what you're sharing, Coach. And two things really jumped out to me as you were sharing about your journey. One, the idea of passion, right? That truly, one of the things I've learned from one of my mentors is fall in love with the idea of truly helping people, right? Of truly being of service. And when you do that, people can feel it, right? And it's something where if someone genuinely feels like you have their best interests at heart, I feel like that is a must before you can actually help someone.
Right.
And the second thing that I really love how you talked about was I really got a sense of what a growth mindset. We'll take the very popular term. Like, you have this ability to really take every experience, take from it, okay, this helped me be successful, right? This helped me win. And then, but also being sort of objective in, I learned that maybe I didn't like the way this went, and going there. So really that ability to be objective with yourself is really what stood out to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and a lot of things that go unnoticed sometimes is reflection, just time for reflection. When you look at the experiences, and for me, I got to be honest, I've coached at so many different levels for so long that each one of those experiences were parallel and paramount in establishing who I am today, and what I want to accomplish with kids as they move on. From my son, who started at Tyke at 6 years old, coaching at all those levels, and at the same time, coaching high school, and then coaching CIS. So for me, it's incredible what each experience has done for me, and how much I've been able to take from it. and grow and learn, and I continue to grow and learn, which is incredible. I think any head coach who feels like they can't continue to grow and learn, they're going to come to a crossroads where maybe this may not be it for them anymore, or the passion may just fall away. So for me, that's what kind of resonates and kind of wakes me up every morning and says, what can I do better to help these kids out? And there's nothing greater for me than to see a kid who's motivated, not just in the game of football, just to do great things, that, you know, that I'm involved in that process, right? You know, and so, you know, it was a tough process for me this year, losing two great players down to the US, right? Because of the whole situation up here. But rather than sit back and say, this is going to destroy our program, I became part of the process. You know, how can I help you along the way? Let's make sure we're in a great school like St. Andrews College, where you can have great education and do some great things. So that is more important to me than the success or the overall championship that we could potentially have lost losing a kid or two, because, you know, what we're doing with these kids are going to last a lifetime. And for me, that's more important to me than anything else. So that's where I'm at now.
And what I really heard from that, coach, was this idea of like, find the opportunity, right? It's really easy to focus on the danger, right? And that's just how we're wired, right? That's just how our brain is. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, that's our cavewoman brain. But I love how you talk about it. It's really about finding the opportunity. So I would love to know, because this is one thing that, you know, when I first messaged you and connected, I really got that listening to you on the Coach Life podcast, was when you talked about how you used this last year and a half, this interesting time of human history, to really give the players an opportunity to really better themselves. So I'd love to know, how have you used this last year and a half to really help serve, you know, the program, the coaches and the players?
Right. Well, obviously a big buy-in from the school itself this past fall. You know, their commitment to athletics and getting our boys involved in extracurriculars was paramount for them. And so for us, once we were given the green light, following the OFA guidelines, you know, we were out there 5 days a week and we were practicing, we were continuing to film things. And then the growth that some of our boys were able to get just in those 2.5 months of really individual attention, not so much focused on the game and the game prep and the installs, more about the technical and tactical, really proved, you know, tremendous dividends for a lot of kids. You know, some kids were not on the radar to get recruited, and all of a sudden we're showing film of what our guys are doing in the fall. And, you know, all of a sudden we went from, you know, potentially 2 or 3 guys who were heavily recruited in their junior year in grade 11 to now, you know, 6 or 7 guys getting recruited in their senior year of a COVID year, right? So, and for me, that again, that was so paramount, because I was given an opportunity, and I could have easily just made it light and gone 3 days a week, knowing we don't have a game, you know. But man, we took, and my coaching staff was on board, we took every opportunity to try to get better. We're so grateful, and I remind the boys all the time how grateful they should be and humbled by the fact that we had this great opportunity to get on the field and practice together as a team. So that alone gave kids many opportunities. And, you know, I spent a lot of time with a lot of CIS coaches and Division I college coaches, and sending up film, and, you know, it gave me time to reflect. You know, as you know, game prep and post game, all that stuff takes so much time, right? And so, you know, it's enough just to get them, you know, ready physically and tactically and technically, but then there's that whole strategy side of things, right? So I took that time, and I put all that energy and time and effort and substituted it into the boys as much as I could, on top of what I was already doing and what I could do for them and my juniors who are going to be rising seniors next year, sophomores, et cetera. So for me, that you know, I took an opportunity and I just exploded with it, right? And I exploded with my social media to make sure that our kids were noticed, see the work that they're putting in, and you know, reaching out to alumni. It's just been a, you know what, people often look back and say, you know, COVID, et cetera, and they look at all the benefits. For me, you know, as much as we didn't get a chance to play, and some of the boys didn't get a chance to really showcase themselves in pads, we did everything we could, and I feel great about that, because you know, I had an opportunity to explore my own position here and reach out to alumni, help out kids, and it's been great. So I really took something and then went with it for this past year, which was great.
And what I really heard from you was you really doubled down on the process.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I feel like that's a cliche that gets used in sport a lot, right? Like trust the process. But what does it really mean? And really it means about being consistent, doing the great work. You know, here's another cliche, when no one's watching,
Mhm.
so that it prepares you for when the lights come on,
Mhm.
that you're ready to go, that you're calm and confident. And really that's the game of life, that those extra reps and sets are going to pay dividends when we get back on the field this fall.
Well, absolutely. I mean, let's go back to when we were 16,
Yeah.
17, and someone tells us we're going to practice 5 days a week and not have a game.
Yeah.
How many of us would be like, oh gosh, so, but the passion our staff put into that we found some competitive ways to make things light and fun. Um, we had 43 guys on our varsity roster.
Wow.
One of those guys missed one practice, which was tremendous. Even at U16 too, it was incredible at JV too. So we made it fun. We want to make sure we were safe. We want to make sure it was fun. We want to make sure it was goal centered. So we want to make sure our guys were going in with a mindset. What are we going to try to achieve here, right? So week to week, we would create a point system and we would make it fun and exciting for our guys. They were able to accomplish from a technical or tactical standpoint. We were able to do some 7-on-7. So, a little bit of competition, which was good, following the guidelines. Our line coach did an incredible job because they couldn't go one-on-one. So then he had some fun things go. We'd look down across the field, look at them in the end zone and say, gosh, Coach Sewell, we cannot pay you enough. You are doing a tremendous, tremendous job with those linemen. So it's been great. We had buy-in from up top, buy-in from the staff, as you probably know, it starts from up top. I got the staff ready to go, knowing what we were faced with, and they were excited about it. And then just to see the kids respond as a coach, it just makes you even more excited to be out there. So.
Love that. And again, I love that top down, right? Like excellence starts from the top, right? It all starts, right? So I'm curious, you've had an opportunity, like as you were talking about, to play and coach at a very high level, right? You've worked with lots of different people. And I love watching some of the videos you put out there, especially the mind of a quarterback, because I feel, and again, we both were around, like quarterbacks they think differently. The great ones they just, there's this, I don't know, they think, and they're so methodical in the way they think. And now you've had the pleasure of having, your son that has really risen up. And that was one thing, as I was chatting with you before we jumped on, like here, just really getting a sense of the passion you have for your kids and their development. I'm curious, having your son sort of walk this process, has it changed the way you look at the coaching? Like that, has it changed your approach to coaching? Has it given you different insights, with the dad hat on and the coach hat on?
No, it's interesting. I guess the biggest thing as a parent coach you try to avoid is treating your own son or daughter differently than the rest. And I made a conscious decision when my son, at 6 or 7 years old, says, Dad, I really want to try football. And then he played basketball. So he was competitive 12 months a year at a high level in both sports. And I was involved in coaching both. That you then realize that the number one thing I need to do is make sure I treat, as I would any other athletes in my program, I'm going to treat my son the exact same way, right? And the car rides home are not going to be anything about the game or the practice unless my own son brings it up, right? I thought that was critical, and we've had an incredible relationship. And I think for my son, he really sees that, and that's allowed him to really mature and develop and know that he's done it on his own terms. And there was no, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, treatment coming differently because it was my dad running the program. So, sometimes, it's okay to say, or you want to say to yourself, you're going to make a conscious decision. But I made sure it wasn't just something I thought about doing. I was going to make sure I did. And maybe that's to my personality. I treat everybody the same. I much prefer to walk a kid off and talk to them about something they've done that, has hurt the team in any way. I'd rather tell them I'm disappointed about the action rather than scream and yell at them. And sometimes that just goes, for the most part, goes a long way. And I think it goes a long way for no matter what, right? Because some coaches say, well, this kid needs to be yelled at, this one needs a tap on the back, and this one, you try to figure all that out, which is great. And that's why you got a staff of 7 coaches. We'll let the other guy maybe do a little bit of yelling. But for me as head coach, I found the best thing to do was just pull a kid aside and tell him, hey, what happened here? A little bit of disappointed, and that comes with parenting too, right? I felt like that was important for me. I treat my players as I would my own kids. And I found, not differentiating that was important and key for his own development, and let alone, everyone else's. So.
Coach, I love that you share that, right? Like that ability to really not differentiate, right? How you treat. And I know for myself, that's been a big area of growth for myself. I know for me, things changed for myself as a coach once I had kids, because I started to ask questions about, how would I want someone to deal with my son or daughter in this moment? And I found like just stopping and really reflecting on that question really made me a better classroom teacher. It made me a better coach, because it reminded me that this is someone's pride and joy, right? Like you really have to. And I find just doing that has been a game changer in how effective as a coach I am in all areas of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the game of football too, right? I mean, it teaches so many great things for these young kids that are involved in the game, that sometimes as coaches, we need to sit back and say, what's more important here at the end of the day, right? And we know what the game's all about. We know the intensity that's involved. We know the physicality. It's a no-brainer, right? And so for us, I think just keeping the kids motivated as coaches, inspiring them, will then bleed to more kids getting involved. As we know, in the last decade or so, we've struggled with kids wanting to participate in the game, et cetera, for a variety of reasons. But I've had healthy rosters everywhere I've coached, which has been tremendous. And I think when you have a staff on board that's buying in to your vision and your philosophy from top down, it's only going to help the game and help your program. So I think that's been very critical for me. And it's never been about, oh, we got to, what are we going to do differently to try and help the game itself? It's always been about how I went about things, right? And I've been at it for 20 plus years. So it really hasn't changed things. So I'm very lucky. This past fall, between both programs, we had almost 90 kids out there playing, which is tremendous. And I've heard from many people at the school here that say, we're getting kids out that we normally typically don't have. We've flirted with rosters of 30 and so on. So to have our rosters up in the 40s and stuff like that, I think for me, that's a win, right? Because the game really does teach a lot of great things for these kids moving on into life. And I'm not saying not knocking any other sport,
Yeah.
but as you know, and we can get into the intricacies of the game, right? I mean, there's one thing I got to tell you for sure, right?
Yeah.
I read a post about linemen, and they were trying to say, and they said, what other sport where their sole job is always to protect?
Yeah.
Right. And then another one I read in a book, and I can't remember the book, and I think I may have said this on the podcast, and that is, think about a sport where only one guy gets to touch a ball, or one person rather gets to touch a ball, and 11 other people are working their butts off around them, right? So, so things like that, so many great things we can teach these kids. So it's important that, us as coaches come together in our philosophy and how we go about our things day to day with our kids. So, yeah, for sure. I think I'm doing my part to help the game, and the game means a lot to me. And I'm going to keep doing this because it just gives me such great passion to do it. So.
Again, just that passion, right? And that energy and enthusiasm that you have for the game to really help and be of service to people, again, really shines through. And that's why, I want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you built a program at Villanova that was, that, again, you built it from the ground. Mm-hmm. And now you're in another program. So I'm curious, one thing that you just mentioned was, creating that vision, right? And that's what a great leader does. It creates a big vision, but then you also talked about buy-in. What is your process to help, communicate the vision and then get buy-in from coaches and players? Is there something that, really you focus on when you're trying to do that?
Yeah, it's not so much meticulous, but transparency and communication, I think, is vital, right? My staff love hearing from me. right? I'm very passionate about what I do and why I do it, and relay the importance of what we're doing. And your staff, once they feel that, they're going to buy in. I've got two kids that played for me at Villanova, went on to have a great career at CIS, that are now back coaching with me, right? And so they were part of my journey when I was coaching my son at the Tyke and Adam Pee Wee level as they were players. Because as I mentioned earlier, I always said, if you can get involved in coaching, it's only going to help you as a player. So, I think those are the biggest things, is that communication, that transparency, and program outline. I think when they see, wow, Coach Lio has just basically outlined what the next 12 months are going to look like for our program. Coach Lio has, brought in alumni. Coach Lio has, started a newsletter for our alumni. So many things that I wanted to bring to the table that the admin here and the staff just welcomed with open arms. And it's proved great dividends so far. It's unfortunate my first year got kind of stalled with COVID, but it just gave me, as I mentioned earlier, great opportunities to make some more connections with people, and for people to feel my passion. I've received so many emails from alumni from the early 50s and 60s here at the school, and it blows my mind to hear them wishing me well and loving what's going on here at the school. So.
And what I really got a sense from you there was, again, that athlete mindset, that quarterback mind, that attention to detail, right? Like doing the little things great, whether it's sharing, hey, these are what the athletes are doing, right? This is the work they're putting in, whether it's the newsletter, and just doing all these things, because it sort of creates this environment of greatness, right? That's what the greats do. So it's great that, you're sort of using this time to really, again, focus on the details.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, without a doubt, those little details are critical. And I got to hats off to my staff, hats off to the school. And they're definitely buying in, and I'm loving every minute of it right now.
So one thing I'm curious of is, you've obviously, like I was mentioning, you've coached a lot of great athletes. What is that, if you had to say that one characteristic? So obviously we understand there's talent, but what is that one X factor that separates a good athlete from a great athlete?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I'm gonna have to say, there are so many things that I want great athletes to be, and whether on their journey to becoming a great athlete, the number one thing, and I mentioned this is one of my pillars from Lou Holtz, and that's to be a great, trusted teammate, right, along the way, especially in the sport of football, let alone all the others. But if there's one thing, and I'm not saying that's going to make them the greatest athlete ever, but if there's one thing I'd really push and want them to understand, is the importance of being a great teammate, right? Being a great leader, leader with words, leader with actions. But what separates the great from the good, I would say, is definitely preparation. I think, having that mindset of knowing that the preparation is the key to success, and it almost filters straight down from your staff to your, kids are smart. Kids realize when you walk out onto the field on a piece of paper and just whipped up a practice plan, right? They know that. As much as you like to believe they may not know, they know, right? So, I email my practice plans out every morning to my kids. They know exactly what they're doing the minute they step on the field, right? So they feel that preparedness and the attention to detail that's involved. And there's a lot of good athletes. So if they can take that from their staff, from their head coach, from what we do from an academic standpoint here intentionally, and apply that to their athletics and their athletic dreams and goals and aspirations, that's what I think will separate them from being good to being great. And if you have that, the fortunate opportunity to be around people that are prepared and that are teaching the importance of that, I think it's just going to follow suit on you, right? I mentioned earlier how mentors of mine have had such great influences on me, right? Things you learn great about from people and you want to take with you, and things maybe I said, maybe I don't want to take with me. But those are the things that I think that being prepared, right? Like failure to prepare is preparing to fail, right? I mentioned that to you earlier. And I tell them all the time, right? I tell them, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're forgotten, right? And that's not just about guys trying to make it Division I or going to youth sports, right? Those are just little things. People, if they hear quotes like that, oh, that's Coach Lio. Coach Lio said that to me since day one, right? So, and I know I've read that somewhere or heard it somewhere, right? I'm not going to take ownership of everything that we hear out there, but there's little things like that that are just so important. And so I would say that preparedness, and it's sometimes it comes from within. There's no doubt. There's a lot of great young self-motivated kids. But let's be honest, the more you surround yourself with preparedness, the better off you will be.
I love that you are sharing that. And two things really jumped out. The last thing you talked about is the importance of environment, right? Of again, if you want to be an eagle, right, you got to surround yourself with other eagles, right? So you can soar. If you want to hang out with turkeys, you're going to stay on the ground. So I love that idea of surrounding yourself with people that want to stretch themselves, right? That really want to be great. The other thing which you really talked about was preparation. And I often look at preparation in terms of, it's not just positive thinking. Positive thinking is a start, but can you combine that thinking great with acting great, right? And once you do that, I believe that's where the magic happens. And what I would share, what I mean by that for the people listening or watching is, I was speaking to a grade 12 rec leadership class, and someone was asking me about, telling me I want to play CIS football. Okay, great. So like, how good do you want to be? Do you just want to be on the roster? No, I want to be an all-star. Okay, that's great. You want to be an all-star. What actions do you need to take today as a grade 12 to be preparing to be that CIS all-star? And as soon as I asked that question, you could see that light bulb go on, because all of a sudden he started thinking differently. He started thinking, okay, what actions do I need to take? He said, commit to doing those things, right? Figure it out. And it's a process. But so I love the idea of preparation, right? The combination of thinking great plus acting great.
Absolutely. And along those lines, when you have those young men that are, have those high dreams and aspirations, the one thing I found is very important is to be transparent, right? Like, I mean, those are great, and I want to feed off of that, and I want to do everything in my power. But they have to realize, as you mentioned, what's your goals? Like, what's your action plan? Because not everyone can play at that level, right? I don't know if we have 32 CIS teams, youth sports teams, right? And I tell kids all the time, I said, and they've got high dreams. Some of these guys have high dreams, which is great. I love it. Yeah. There's nothing more that I would want to hear from a kid. And maybe it's NCAA. But I got to remind them all the time. I said, you know how difficult it is to make a youth sports roster? We've been there, right? So that was years ago. Look at it now, right? So, do you know how difficult it is to be able to dress in your first year on a youth sports roster? What is involved to be a student athlete at that level? And if that's not being mimicked now, the preparation is not beginning now, whether it's through academics or athletics or what you're doing off season, it's going to be, let's be honest, and I'm honest with them all the time, it's going to be very difficult, right? So I want to make sure that I'm transparent that way. I never want to pump the tires so much that knowing that, that goal will be reached no matter what, right? So what's the will? What are you going to do to want to get there, right? So I'm going to help you along the way, and you're not going to find anybody that's going to help you anymore. But what are you going to do on your end, right? So I think that's important to do with young student athletes, because some coaches will just feed off of that and tell them everything they want to hear. But at the end of the day, I think that's going to do more of a disservice for them down the road, especially when it comes to life, as we know what happens after playing. So
that's great. One thing that, again, those common connections, you were mentioning before we hopped on here, that really there was this moment, right, when you got a book, and I'll let you kind of dive a little bit deeper, really sort of framed your coaching philosophy, your pillars. And any great coach has pillars they always come back to. So I'm curious, having clear pillars, how have they really supported your growth as a coach?
Well, obviously, whatever pillars we're attracted to, whatever book we've read, whatever phrases that resonate with us, obviously there's something in us that would want us to, be touched by a phrase or have it resonate with us to the point where like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm going to move forward day to day in that pursuit. And so, the ones I mentioned to you from Lou Holtz, when I read the book, Winning Every Day, the Pursuit of Success, were the three pillars of the pursuit of excellence, right? And being excellent is not just what you do in your sport. Being excellent is waking up every morning, as we've talked about, having goals and trying to achieve what is your action plan. Just making solid attempts at trying to achieve what your goals, the goals you've set up for yourself, right? What are your solid attempts day to day? SMART, obviously, they've got to be specific. They've got to be measurable. We know that SMART principle. Those are important things for you. And that's the pursuit of excellence, right? Because not everybody's going to be the best, right? Not everybody's going to be, be able to run a 4.40, right? Like genetically, that's just not going to happen. But what have you done to get from a 4.7 or a 4.8 to a 4.7, right? Or a 4.7 to 4, right? What have you been able to do? And those are things that you can take with you forever because you've set goals and you've done it. So that pursuit of excellence is number one, right? And then number two is obviously doing what's right, right? So the character piece, that really resonated with me when I read the book. So doing what's right. Like, so you're walking down the hall, you see a piece of garbage. Nobody's around. You gonna pick that up? Or are you gonna just do it when someone's around watching, right? So you're gonna throw that out, right? So just little things like that. You're in a situation socially where something's not right here. A friend of yours might be doing something wrong. Are you going to be the person that steps up and tries to, dissipate anything terrible from happening, making sure the right thing is done here moving forward? So, making those choices, right, and being able to step up and do what's right. And then, the third one obviously is, showing people you care, right? Can you be that trusted teammate? And I think caring, when you show someone you care, and not just from a coach down, but as a player to player, it's going to, you want to talk about somebody who wants to block for you as a quarterback, and you show that lineman and all those players around you, because let's face it, the quarterback's the guy who's obviously on the front page of the news, making all the money, getting all the highlights, etc. But you show your teammates how much you care. Imagine what they're going to do for you when you're on an island on a 5-step drop back and you got to make a play and all those things are going on. They're going to do everything in their power because you showed you care, right? And you showed your care to your teammate, right? So that's critical for me. So, Lou, Coach Holtz talks about that all the time. Anytime you've ever seen him, where he's done a live interview and stuff like that, any phrases to the book, and those have all been taken out of context, but those three pillars definitely have resonated with me. And I live by that every day in what I do and what I teach. So.
I love what you share there. And it goes back to this philosophy of keep it simple, simple. And what I mean by that is the more I talk with, the more I really study successful and highly effective people, and especially coaches. It's funny that they are knowledgeable in X's and O's. I mean, to achieve success at that level, you do need to have it. But really, it's the mindset behind it. And where that really got reinforced was in 2011. I went to Notre Dame for a coaching clinic, and we were really enthused to hear Coach Urban Meyer speak. Mm-hmm. And we were, because we thought, okay, he's going to share with us all like the secrets behind what created Florida's success. And it was interesting because he talked about creating great young men. And at the time, again, I was still relatively not young, but again, just early 30s, and still thinking like, what was that? Like, I thought he was going to share with us X's and O's.
Yeah,
and
I want more. Yeah.
Yeah, I want more. And then I realized that he just shared with us, it's really about people, it's the development of people. And from there, once I understood that, I was like, this is what successful coaches do. They are in the business of developing people. Mm-hmm. So that.
And that was 2011, you said, Coach?
2011.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. And now he's back coaching, huh? Yeah.
I know. So it'll be interesting to see how his stuff applies at the highest level.
Yeah. And, when you mentioned that, I remember my conversation with Lou Holtz when I met him for the first time on a golf course in Florida. Yeah. We took our Adam team down. We had
Okay.
a tremendous season with that team. We didn't lose a game. We had 236 points, 4-0 against. We won that Adam championship. It was an incredible group of young kids we worked with, and incredible staff that I brought along. Those two young guys that played for me went on to play CIS. They were on that staff. We got invited to play down in Florida because one of our coaches had a connection down there, and we were about to play. Our season was wrapping up in the spring, and we were about to play the national runner-up champions for that age group of the country, right, in Florida. So it's great. Let's go down and do this, right? So it can be Friday night, like 9, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds running around. So much fun. We ended up tying that game. We went to triple overtime. It was a great experience. The next day, we went to the golf course, and I met Lou Holtz. And he actually spoke to our kids. So this was all kind of pre-planned. I didn't even know, which was great. So I just had 2 minutes with him. If you know Coach Holtz, conversations are pretty quick with him. When it's time for him on the mic, it's going to go on for a while. But when there's a lot of people around, it's pretty quick. So you got your window with him, right? All I asked him, I said, Coach, I said, all those years, how did you continually, year after year, find the energy to motivate those young men? And he looked, he stopped for a minute, and then he looked at me and he says, Coach, I just worked with motivated players, right? It wasn't about how much I could motivate them. I recruited motivated kids, harnessed that energy, showed them my passion, and took off from there, right? It's not always necessary. And we talked about good and great athletes, right? That motivation piece is critical, right? So, but what do you do with that motivation? What can you do, right? Because it can't be a day in and day out, can't come from the head coach every day. And that's what he made me realize, because I thought to myself, geez, that's a great answer. I just recruit motivated kids, Coach. He said, that's what he said. I said, how do you motivate kids every day? He said, Coach, I just recruit motivated kids. And I was on to the next guy. So, yeah, it's interesting. Great cat for sure.
You know what I love about that is he's really clear on the type of players and coaches he wanted to surround himself with, but then he realized that it's really about really getting people to think highly of themselves, right? To really just harness, like you talked about, to bring that to the surface, and that's how you create great people.
Yep.
Right? So I love it. So I'm curious, Coach, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
Depending on when people are watching this or listening to it, we've are coming out of an interesting time in human history. But you know what? Regardless of it, the game of life will present us with obstacles and challenges. Not that we expect them, but we understand that's part of life. Right. What is a piece of advice that you would give someone? Maybe they're just struggling with their health right now. Maybe they're going through a relationship breakdown. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe just life has really knocked them down a peg or two. What is one thing that you would encourage them to do just to help get back on your feet, to get them moving again so they can create some positive momentum and continue along their journey to greatness?
That's a great question. And that's probably one I would need a lot of time to consider. But the first thing that comes to my mind is listening, right? I think having the power to listen can go a long way. Oftentimes we're faced in a battle of conversation, wanting to get our 2 cents in, especially in the profession that we're involved in, coaching and stuff like that. I've become such a humbled leader because I feel like I can always listen. It's a characteristic that I've really lived by, and listening has gone a long way for me. And I think anybody who potentially might be struggling through all of this is to have that open communication with anybody willing to talk, and take the time to listen, because I believe every single word in speaking to anybody. I'm just listening to you, JT. There's going to be so much I'm going to take away from our conversation, and I'm going to make some notes, and that's what I'll do after I have a great conversation with people like yourselves, and just listen. I think that's really going to help people understand, because when you listen, not only will you be able to learn and grow, but you might also realize that I'm not alone in this, right? Right. And that's critical. And that's not just anybody who's struggling. Maybe that's someone who's doing well and succeeding, and having the power to listen and not just be naive to the fact that I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing and everything's fine, and not have that growth mindset. It's unparalleled what listening can do for you, whether it's in a struggling situation or whether you're in a very, very successful situation. So I think listening would be the key. Obviously, I think there's a lot more to that, but again, I would need more time. But I think listening for sure is definitely the power of listening.
I love that, Coach, right? And why I love that is I'm a firm believer, you hear with your ears, but you listen with your heart. And I just love when we open up our heart, that's where the magic starts to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Okay.
Coach.
So if anyone, Coach, wants to get connected, maybe there's something that really piqued their interest. Maybe it's a coach that just loves what you're all about, really wants to sort of tap into all of your experience, all of your expertise. What is the best way people can connect with you?
Well, through social for sure.
Okay.
You know, at Coach Lio on Instagram. I'm on Twitter as well. And that's my personal, but obviously I do a lot of stuff with regards to my role here at St. Andrews. And I also have my at SAC Football 1899 accounts as well on social. But at Coach Lio would be the best bet to reach out to me on Twitter, on Instagram, or Facebook. My email, I don't mind giving that out too as well. It's Marcello, Marcello, .lio@sac.on.ca.
Awesome. And folks, we'll share all of Coach's handles and his email in the description, on the Facebook group, in the podcast in the description. So just check it out there. Lastly, Coach, what I wanted to do is just really take a moment. I really want to take a moment just to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for the man you are, the husband you are, the great dad, the coach, the mentor, the teacher, the educator, but most importantly, the great human being that you are. I have really enjoyed getting to know you because, again, your passion for wanting to help others and truly be of service is inspiring. It reminds me what the game of life is all about. So thank you, Coach, for just leading by example.
And JT, thank you so much. As I said, having conversations like this go a long way. I'll be talking about this all day, and even having an opportunity to speak with you outside of through socials was very inspirational for me too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So folks, here's my challenge to you. Coach shared a ton of nuggets of wisdom. And what I would encourage you to do is to take one nugget of information and apply it to your life today. Remember, knowledge is potential power. It's the application of great knowledge that truly makes things happen, that will allow you to reach your next level of greatness. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll chat with you next time in the huddle. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Coach.